What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Rock Your Brand podcast. And today we are going to be talking and sharing what we know about ranking on Etsy and getting to page one, and not just getting to page one, but actually staying there. And also with some of the most recent talk from Josh Silverman and some of the people on that team. They've been talking about the future of SEO and what it's going to look like to rank on page one. And we're going to talk about what it's going to take for us right now, currently in the state of SEO, what it's going to take for us to be able to rank on page one. So that is what we're going to be diving in here today because, we are approaching Q4, and I'm sure a lot of you are wanting to get ranked on page one, as we all are. So that's what we're going to be talking about here today. And we're going to be sharing really the overall view of what it looks like for getting ranked, but then also what it looks like moving forward. So Chris, with that all being said and that all teed up, is there anything that you wanted to say on the SEO and maybe even just elaborating a little bit as far as like what people need to understand about SEO and not just thinking to themselves like, oh, it's just keywords? Anything you wanted to start with there before we dive into these three areas that I want to cover here today?
Yeah, and before we do that, since you and I are just standing here getting everything ready to rock, let us know. Our streaming platform has been playing with our audio levels a little bit, so let us know if we're too loud, too soft, if we're like I'm blowing you out or Scott's blowing you out or you can't hear one of us. Let us know in the chat as we're getting these things rocking and rolling. And Scott, you mentioned a video that we did a few weeks ago about Etsy's new approach to SEO. And the question that we've gotten essentially nonstop since then is, when are they gonna roll this out? Like, is this out now? That entire conversation from Josh Silverman is something that they're working on, but it's not necessarily how they're looking at things now. That's their ideal future, and they're going to be running tests towards that. In the short term, Scott, we're getting towards the start of Q4 here, right? We're getting towards the end of the year, which is the hottest buying period by far on Etsy. And so the question is, and I know this is the question because we've gotten it 100 times over the last week, right? What do I need to do now? And what do I need to do in the future? And even though we don't necessarily know exactly how the algorithm is going to work in the future, the basic things that you need to be doing now with what they're talking about being the future of SEO will still help you get to where you want to be now and in 2025 and in 2026, right? Because we're not just talking about the old way of doing things or the way that they specifically said they don't want people doing things and the way that's disfavored by the Etsy algorithm. So if we can set our base now, even if some things change a little bit one way or the other, we can set a good foundation, not just to ensure that we're ranking now at the hottest portion of the year, but as they start to roll out some of the algorithm changes that they've been talking about, we set ourselves up for success in the future as well.
Yeah. The other thing I want to bring up is that we're also going to be addressing some of the myths out there, some of the lies that are being spread, the rumors, if you will, on Etsy SEO, because there are a lot of them. And there's a lot of confusion as far as what it takes. And Chris, I just heard the other day, literally a secondhand conversation. I was kind of just, listening in, and I heard someone say that you should not use the word personalize or personalization in your title because it can actually hurt your ability to show up. And I was like, how is that even possible? Now, if you don't have something that is personalized and you're putting personalized in there just to try to get in front of that traffic, I understand that you might be doing something there that you shouldn't be doing and to try to capitalize on personalization. But when I heard that, I was like, that's probably the worst advice I've ever heard someone give about ranking, is like not using personalization. What's your thoughts on that, Chris? Before we dive into the actual content here, like what do you think on that?
Okay. So I did not hear that. And maybe you can give me some context for this, Scott. Did they give some rationale behind it? Because a lot of the SEO rumors, and you and I have talked about this in the past, they do have a grain of truth. And I think you kind of addressed what I would consider to be the grain of truth in this one. If you're not selling a personalized product, then obviously don't put personalized in the title.
Right.
But did they give any rationale for why you wouldn't do that otherwise?
I think the idea was, at least from what I gathered, was if you put personalized in there, it could reduce your reach, because if something isn't personalized or doesn't need to be personalized, your item would not show up because it has personalized in it. And I would not think that if something has personalized in it, if you have something that's personalized, you also don't have to personalize it, by the way. Like there's things that my wife has that are personalized that people say, don't worry about putting it on there. We just want it without any personalization. Like, so I don't understand where that would come from. But when I heard that, I was like, that sounds like really bad advice.
So, and it's something you and I have talked about in the past. The only other thing that I can think of would be if you're putting that at the very front of the title. So personalized dancing avocado mug, you would potentially not rank as well for dancing avocado mug, because the first few characters, and I forget the exact number, but
Yeah.
the first few characters, the first few words of the title are more heavily weighted by the algorithm, right? And so if the real keyword is avocado mug and that gets bumped out of that, then there's the potential that at least up front, you wouldn't rank as highly for that. Does that make sense?
It does, but I still don't know if
Just from a purely like
yeah, I know,
trying to find a rationalization,
trying to figure a rationale for it. But yeah, yeah, I personally would tell someone, like, if you put personalization in there, you have probably got a bigger audience of people looking for certain items. If your item is personalizable, right? Like if it's not, then I would say, okay, don't put a word in there that does not belong in there, because that could target the wrong crowd, right? So my point here is, Chris, we don't need to go down this rabbit hole, but listen, the point here is there's a lot of stuff out there that people are being told, then you're thinking it's true, and then you're doing it and you're wondering why you're not showing up, or, why you shouldn't be doing like, so to me, it's just confusing. And I just want to say, like, you have to be careful on what you listen to or who you listen to, but also you have to also use your head a little bit and use a little common sense and say, does that really make sense? Probably not. I don't know why that would hurt you unless you weren't having something that was personalized. Period. Done. Right? Okay. So let's move on now. I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I think I proved my point there that there's a lot of information out there that is not correct, and you want to be careful with that. Has anybody heard that in the comments? Just let me know if anyone else has heard that. And that way there we can kind of see, where we're at here. Before we do get started though, this is about ranking and about SEO, and we're going to talk about some optimization stuff. But I did want to let you guys know, just this morning, we just announced that we are going to be teaching a workshop on SEO, and it's what we're calling our Etsy SEO accelerator workshop. It's going to be 2 days. Okay. It is a paid workshop. But if you would like to join us, it's going to be a small group. It's the first time we've ever did this. We are also going to be reviewing our students that are going through it, their SEO. We're also going to be sharing a lot of listings that are doing very well out there, so we can kind of see and show what is working, why is it working, and what are some things that you might need to include in your listing in order to get ranked and also to convert higher. If you're interested in joining us in this camp, it's going to be September 5th. All right. It's kind of like a mini camp. It's a workshop where we're going to get together for 2 days. We're going to get together on September 5th and September 12th. And if you can't make it live, we're going to give the recordings out. But if you would like to join us, you can just go to right here, brandcreators.com/SEO. We just opened up enrollment this morning. The enrollment will be open up until the 5th, so the 4th, and then we'll be closing the doors, and then we'll be teaching it to a small group of Etsy sellers. If you'd like to be part of that group, if you'd like to get in, we are having a special discount for people that get in on this round because, well, it's kind of like a pilot where we're we're teaching it for the first time, and we want to get some reviews and some testimonials ourselves. So we want to make sure that the content that we're putting into this training is good, but also that we can kind of test it and see what else we might need to put in when we do roll it out to the public in the future. All right. So if you're interested, head on over to brandcreators.com/SEO. And you can also get a discount there for joining in this group. All right. So there you go. All right. So that's what's happening. Let's get rocking and rolling. So the first thing that I want to say here, Chris, before I do though, Chris, you wanted to tell me something. What?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you something real quick, Scott. Are you seeing all of the chat come in on your side? On the back end here, I'm only seeing like a third of what I'm seeing on the YouTube.
No, I'm not.
So, all right. So just so you guys know, when we're doing a live stream, we should see everything show up on the back end so that we can mark things and do all of those. It seems like about a third of that is coming through right now. So I'm just going to have the live stream open in the other tab, Scott, and I may comment to ourselves so that we see it, because it looks like everything that I write shows up. So I'll just do that if I see anything interesting. And then
I'm not quite sure why that's happening today, Chris, but if maybe look even in the settings inside of the YouTube studio, maybe there's something there that needs to be checked. So we will see. All right. Anyway, I can see there's over 80 people on with us right now. So that's cool, but we don't see a lot of the comments coming through here in our studio, but we also have it open in our live studio inside of YouTube. So we can still see you, or Chris can see you. All right. So let me just kind of go over, there's 3 areas that we're going to talk about. Okay. And this is how we are going to be able to get on first page. And then also how we're going to be able to add these things and focus on these things that are also going to help us in 2025 and beyond, because the way that SEO is going, and it just came out, we did a whole video, we did a live stream on it as well. Josh Silverman came out, they had a meeting, and they talked about what the future of their SEO looks like. And they're also going to be helping us sellers by telling us what we should improve, which is really, really important. But with that being said, we already know, just from what they have said, what the algorithm is looking for. Okay. So here's the first thing that I want to cover here. We need to understand how SEO actually works. Okay. We have to understand how it works. I literally was just having this conversation with my wife this morning because I was explaining what I was going to be explaining to you. And I asked her, I said, does that make sense? I wanted to make sure that I was clear. So I was kind of running it to someone who's selling on Etsy, and I wanted her to understand it and see if it made sense. She said, yes, it does. I said, okay, cool. So here's what I want you to understand. People think that you find these keywords and you're maybe using a tool, maybe you're using Everbee, maybe you're using Marmalade, or maybe you're, any of the other tools out there, right? That can help you with keyword research. And you're finding the keywords and they're giving you opportunity scores and they're giving you all of these things. That's great. Okay. Bottom line is this: if you're doing your product research and you find a product that's similar to the one you want to sell and it's selling really well, you've got all of the data that you need right there on the surface. You've got all the data right there. Okay. So what we want to do is look at that title that they're using. We want to look at their tags, right? So we don't have to overcomplicate. I see people trying to find these long tail and trying to find the ones that no one else is using. And to me, yeah, you can get a few extra visits maybe, but it's probably not the best time spent. Okay. What you want to do is you want to optimize for the search engine, Etsy, right? For what people are searching for. And the way to do that is find listings that are already selling well, and you're going to use what they are targeting. There's nothing proprietary about that. If it's someone searching for Halloween nursing shirt, there's nothing special there other than you got to come up with one. Now, if we throw in personalization, personalized Halloween nursing shirt, now we're a little bit different, right? Maybe that's the search term, right? Then, of course, yes, we want to fill out our tags with some of those other ones that might be being searched for or that are relevant. Okay. So that's the basic stuff, right? We got to make sure that our listing is optimized, and Etsy has indexed us. And if you guys are brand new, indexing means that Etsy is going, their little AI bot, right? It's going to scrape all of the data that you're putting in on the surface. Everything that you can see, it can see. Okay. And then what it's doing is it's sorting it. It's putting it in a place. And it's going like, okay, if we get a search, this listing is about this thing, so let's show it. Now that would be great, wouldn't it? If that was actually the case. It is the case, but there's other things that the algorithm is looking for other than just you saying like, hey, I put in my keyword, now put me on page 1, right? What does Etsy truly want? Oh, they want to make Etsy human again. Yeah. Okay. I get it. Right. That's their marketing thing. Yes. They want to make it human again. They want to make it where you're going to get results when you search for results. But what they're really going to be doing, and this is what they're doing right now too, is they want to show products that have been proven to sell and that have also gotten positive reviews. Okay. Let me say that again. Etsy wants to put products in front of a search, if you search for something, of a product that has been selling and that has gotten good reviews. Okay. So that's one part of it. Now, you can have all the great keywords that you want, but if you don't have some conversions and some proof that the product is actually selling, it's going to be hard to compete unless there's no one else using that keyword. Okay, which is probably unlikely. Now, there is a little honeymoon period that we have heard. Again, I can't prove this, but there's a little honeymoon period, and this happens on Amazon too. It happens on eBay. When a new listing is created, it will get tested. Because what Etsy's doing, if you think about it logically, again, we're putting our little common sense hat on. If Etsy wants to have people buy a product that has been proven to sell because they have the data, they're going to put it in front of a potential buyer, right? But now what they're going to say is like, okay, that one has worked really well and it's converting at, let's say, 3.2%. But what if there was another one out there that could do better? Well, what are they going to do? They're going to take a random listing that might be new and they're going to go ahead and put it alongside it. And they're going to see how it does. But if you have 100 views and you have one sale, great. But you don't have any reviews yet. Okay. This other listing has 100 views and they get 3 sales. They're converting higher. Why are they converting higher? It might be because they have more reviews. So then it's going to take you time to get reviews. So this way here you can compete, but it will give you a chance. Okay. It will give you a chance even as a new listing, but it's going to be a short window. It's not going to be, they're going to just do it forever. Okay. Now, I'm not the algorithm. I haven't built the algorithm, but this is what we have heard. This is what we have read. And it's also what we've experienced. All right. So I'm saying when we're looking at the SEO, we have to optimize on the front end. Yes, we have to do that, but we also have to understand and think logically, how would you as Etsy, how would you want to display products? Would you want to display products just because you want to be a nice person and go, let's give them a chance? Maybe a little bit, but then you're like, you know what? I got to keep the lights on. So let's put the products that have been proven to sell in front of these searches. So the question then becomes, how do you do all that, right? We'll get into a little bit of that. All right. But I want you to just understand that it's more than just taking keywords, putting them in there and putting up a new listing. Right? You've probably heard other people say too, like, just put up a whole bunch of new listings all the time. Like put up 5 new listings a day because then you'll get up in the algorithm. True to a certain extent, but if you're putting up that many listings, your listings are probably crap. I'm sorry, but they probably are. They're not up to par. Okay. And then, like I said, you need to compete with the one that's been selling well. All right. So the way we used to do it years ago, I'm getting a little bit advanced here, but I want to share this because I think it's important for you to understand. The way that we used to do it years ago with Amazon, and it works the same today, and nothing's really changed here because it's still about the sales because that's what the platform wants, right? So what we used to do is we used to find the competing products that we were going to be selling against, and we would say, okay, that's selling 5 units a day, 5 products a day, okay? So in order for me to compete with that, I need to sell 5 a day. So how am I going to do that? That's where marketing comes in. That's where you might need to run some ads. You might need to discount your price. You may need to get some reviews by lowering your price, getting reviews. So you get that sales velocity. Okay. But logically, you have to think Etsy wants sales and they're going to be taking your product and putting it up against other products that have been selling, and it's going to see if yours will sell or outsell it. Okay. And here's the other thing. Now, let's say that you are selling 5 a day and 5 other products are selling 5 a day. Now you're like, okay, cool. They're going to show us all. No, here's the next piece of this. Now they're going to take those 5 and they're going to go, okay, what else can we decide? What else can we use as a factor in the algorithm to show certain ones higher than others? Conversion rate. So again, going back to the basics, if every one of them had 100 views and this one converted at 1%, so it sold 1, this one here sold at 3%, 3, and this one sold at 5%, they're going to probably take the 5% one and put it to the front. Because why? Because they know if 100 people go there, 5 people are going to buy it versus the 1. Let me know in the comments if this is making sense, if this is helpful. And if it is, smash the like button. Chris, I'm going to pause there. And I just want to make sure that we're clear on the overall, like how it works.
Yeah. So Scott, have you ever seen the Harry Potter movies? I'm assuming you didn't read the books, but maybe
I'm
your
not
kids
much
are
of
old
a
enough.
Harry Potter guy. I got to be honest, Chris.
Did you ever see the first one where they like put the hat on Harry and it tells him what house he
Bits and
belongs
pieces,
to?
Chris. Bits and pieces.
Right. So that's called the sorting hat, right? It's this magic hat that tells you where, like, what college you go to, right? Like what
Yeah.
team you're a part of, essentially. That's kind of how the algorithm works. It's not just random. It's not saying, oh, they're here so they qualify. It's saying, here's all of the qualities. In the case of the Harry Potter sorting hat, it's the qualities of the individual, right? In the case of the Etsy algorithm, it's the qualities of the listing. So it's not just the words on the page. And I think that is the biggest myth, rumor, piece of terrible advice, right? That we hear, hands down, period, no questions asked. This is not a keywords game. And Scott, I've said this in the past and I'll say it again. People will yell at me in the comments. Your keywords are not unimportant, but they're almost irrelevant as long as they accurately describe the product. And you alluded to this a few minutes ago when you were talking about the personalization thing, Scott, where it's like, okay, maybe it weights it a little bit more if it's at the front, but does it really matter? Etsy's algorithm is substantially smarter than what people give it credit for. If we are selling a personalized Chris dancing avocado mug, and we write avocado mug, coffee cup, avocado coffee cup, teacup, avocado Chris personalized, yes, technically we've shoved all of the keywords in there, but Etsy's understanding of what that listing is at the keyword level is exactly the same as if we wrote personalized avocado coffee cup, right? Because they look at each word and each phrase individually. They break them down. They look at common misspellings. They look at synonyms. They look at antonyms, things that mean the opposite, to try to figure out what any combination of those words would qualify you for. So whether it's in the title, description, tags, alt text in your images, if that word is in there, you technically pass that test of you're good enough to be here, right? And so the question is, Scott, if you and I both have a listing, let's say, don't do this, people, but let's say you and I have the exact same title, tags, description, alt text, the exact same listing, 2 different shops, right? How does Etsy tell the difference? How does Etsy choose which one to rank? It comes down to literally everything else that happens with the listing. And this is where people get caught up a lot on the SEO side. They go, okay, I have 5 hours to dedicate to SEO this week. What am I going to do? I'm going to use something like Everbee. I'm going to look at all the keywords. I'm going to find that golden keyword. I'm going to put that in, and that's going to be my secret to success. And I will tell you right now, that is an utter waste of your time. I'm not saying don't accurately describe the product, but focusing on the keywords is a great way to just waste all of that time. How do we know this? One, if you read through Etsy's handbook, again, pretty dense read, everything, links to everything else. We've done it. We've broken down the algorithm a few different times. You can do that, or you can watch the video that we did where we listened to the interview with Etsy CEO describing exactly how it works. And just so happens that they're not reliant on the keywords. And he actually said the worst piece of SEO advice that he hears is what's at the top of all of those YouTube Etsy SEO results? Keyword stuffing, right? Trying to shove as many things in there as possible because they don't actually care about that. As long as they know that your listing qualifies to show up for that search, they're then looking at if they send you a person to that listing, how likely are you to turn that person into someone buying your product versus your competitors, right? So if we describe our product accurately, we've passed the first part of that test, and we can move on to the real thing that starts to matter, which is everything else that happens at the listing level. Does that make sense, Scott?
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, like if you guys are new to the Etsy game, maybe you're showing up here for the first time, but yeah, just it'll save you a lot of time to not just sit there and try to find these magic keywords that are going to bring you in floods of traffic. The other thing is, I will say too, is some people will say, okay, well, I found these other keywords and I put them in, and guess what? I'm ranking for them. I went into an incognito window and I went into Etsy and I put that keyword in there and I'm ranking. So I'm going to be great. I'm going to have a ton of sales. Wrong. Most of the time, those keywords, they're long tail and not a lot of people are using them. So it's great to say, badge of honor, I made it. I'm on page 1 for, personalized nursing shirt for oversized women, right? Like you're like, yay, I'm there. I made it. But maybe there's only 5 people looking for that with those keywords, right? But you made it because it's a long tail keyword and it's easier to rank for that because there's not a lot of competition because no one's searching for it, right? So be careful with that stuff, I guess is what I'm saying there. All right. So, all right. I want to move on. There's like I said, there's 3 areas I want to talk about, but this one here is like, I look at these as like the 3 core things. So I got 3 that I'm going to cover, but I got these 3 core things that I want to cover. I know a lot of 3s here today. But the first thing is this as well. Okay. And it kind of goes with what I just mentioned about like getting on first page, but there's not really any traffic. And this could be also one of the problems as to why you're not getting sales. You're ranking, but you're not getting sales is because we missed a very important piece. Before we ever are going to optimize and get ourselves ready for SEO and get ready to, turn on the sales faucet, right? Before we can do any of that stuff, we got to make sure that there's people actually looking for this product in general. So it comes back to the in-demand piece. And I've talked about this a lot, and I'm going to continue to talk about it because it's so important, because nothing that you do is going to help a product that's not in demand, that's not being searched for. And I know a lot of people are like, well, what's in demand? What does it mean? It's different for everyone. But if you're trying to get 5 sales a day and there's only 5 sales a month, it's going to be real hard, right? So we have to make sure that that piece is in place. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time there, but that's a big piece. If you're having trouble with, sales or traffic, you might want to look at that and see what's reality. Look at some other ones that you've done some research on. And I can't tell you how many people I ask. A lot of times they're like, yeah, I'm struggling with sales. I'm struggling with traffic. And I'm like, okay, what are we comparing to? And they're like, well, I don't, not much. I only did a little bit of research. I'm like, no, we got to do the research. We got to know that there's potential there, or else we're doing work for nothing because there's no traffic there. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have to make sure that we optimize. And again, I just talked about it there in the beginning, but it's the basic stuff, right? It's your title. You need a good title, a readable title, not one that's just a whole bunch of words strung together. There's got to be breaks in it. So that's the basic stuff. Obviously, we want this listing to convert, right? That's the big thing. Like, people don't realize that the page that you have, the listing page, that's like a web page that we want to convert a visitor to a customer. And like I had mentioned earlier, if we have higher conversions on that page than our competition, we are going to be in front of them. Okay. And so that's why the conversion pieces are not so much the title. The title is going to help you get found. The conversion pieces are going to be things like your images. Okay. Images could be just better images than your competition, or just better images in general for you. So when someone lands there, they see the detail, they see different angles. The other thing is maybe you put some reviews in there so people don't just go to your reviews, but they actually see the reviews in there. If there's a sizing chart, make sure you put it in there. It's super clear. Like, there's all of those things that can help to convert a visitor to a sale. And remember, a lot of the ranking factors come down to getting higher conversions. All right. The other thing is reviews. If you don't have a lot of reviews right now, you just got to work on that. And the way you work on that is, well, you got to get sales. How do you get sales? A lot of times we're going to discount our price in the beginning and we're going to get customers. So this way here, we can get reviews. If we don't get sales, we can't get reviews. So that's another conversion mechanism. The star seller badge. A lot of people say, well, is that really, does that matter? It probably doesn't matter as much as good images or, having good reviews, but it is something. Okay. They even have it in their little filter system now that you can search by star sellers only. You can do that. Now, are people really doing it? Probably not. Is there something in the algorithm that sees that star seller badge as an indicator that we should show them higher because the other one isn't a star seller? And that's also going to, in the future, that's going to be a big deal because Josh Silverman had said, we are going to be looking at not just the optimization of the listing itself, but we're going to be looking at how well the shop owner takes care of their customers. What kind of score do they have in their scoring system? And part of that is a star seller badge. So that's something that we're going to want to have, not just for, oh, look at me, I've got a star seller badge. It's more of, it's Etsy sees that you are doing a good job, and then they're going to push you a little bit more than someone that doesn't have that. So it's another piece. Your description again, it's another thing to give Etsy more information about the product. Okay. So it can index you. Like I had said earlier, like if it's scraping the listing, it's going to be able to index you for more keywords and more relevant keywords, but it's also going to be a conversion piece because if people have questions and you answer those questions in there, it's going to make them not have to go, oh, I'll come back. I don't know like what size it is, or, oh, I don't know if this fits tall men, like if you have those things in there and someone's having that question and you can answer that question in that description, you're going to convert higher. And what did we say about conversions? Why do we want to convert higher? Because it means that we are going to be showing up higher than our competition because we have a higher conversion. Okay. And so that's the conversion piece as far as optimization and conversion. So it's really like 3 areas. In demand, we got to make sure that we're optimized on the surface, right? And then we have to make sure that we're working on those conversion pieces. All right. So that's the 3 core SEO principles or the factors that I like to look at as far as getting on page 1, staying on page 1 and ranking very, very high. Chris, anything you want to bring up there or mention there that I might have missed?
You didn't miss it, but I think we just need to hammer it. Right? There's that joke about beating a dead horse. I don't care how dead this horse is. You can have the most optimized listing on the planet. You can convert at 90%. But if there are 2 people a month looking for your thing, there's nothing you can do about that. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the biggest mistake, Scott, that we see people making, right? They pick products or they launch products that don't have enough demand to support their goal. And we saw this. We actually did some Etsy shop audits yesterday that'll be airing here in the future. And that was one thing that we noticed is there's just not a lot of people looking for the stuff that they're selling. So how do we get in front of more people? We can't necessarily with that specific product, right? So we can optimize to the moon. We can shove in every version of cup or mug or whatever. But if there's only 5 people looking for something, that's a maximum of 5 sales that we can get. If we rank number 1, we get all the traffic and all of those people happen to convert from searchers into buyers. And I think on the SEO side of things, people focus so much on just the keyword level that they forget the basic product research stuff that happens and all of the things that matter substantially more than that afterward. And you talked about doing the basics, right? We're not saying never think about keyword. We are saying think about them at a very basic level. How do we write a human readable title, tag, and descriptions? Do we have our images? And then what can we do to make sure that we maximize our chances of turning into a sale if someone comes to listing? Because at the end of the day, that's what Etsy really cares about.
Yeah, and it's really important. It's like you can update your images, but if you got no traffic, no one's going to see the images, right? It's like we can update like that stuff. That's conversion. That's a conversion piece. Okay, it's like tags could be an area where if you add certain tags, that could help you get visibility. But the conversion pieces that we're talking about, like having more reviews doesn't necessarily mean that you're just going to rank higher. The reviews, what that does is that gives people confidence that they're going to get a product that is going to meet their expectations because they've read reviews. That's a conversion piece, right? It doesn't mean that the algorithm goes, oh, they have, 10 5-star reviews, and this one has 100 5-star reviews. So let's go ahead and show them higher. Now, with that being said, is that going to help their overall score? Possibly. Okay. Because they're looking at the whole picture, and that's what we don't know moving forward. But what I do know is if you can work on making your customers happy and leaving a positive review, it's only going to help you. It's only going to benefit you. So really, really important. All right. And so the last thing that I'm going to kind of highlight here, and I just really want to make sure that we are super, super clear, is it's not necessarily, okay, like I said, about the surface level stuff. That stuff is more for like getting found, getting discovered. But without the other piece, the conversion piece, it's going to be hard to keep that visibility. And that's my last point here, is really like, how do you stay in the top spot, right? How do you stay in the top spot? And to me, it's pretty simple, is we have to keep our conversions higher than our competition. Okay. Bottom line. And how do we do that? Well, like I said, the more reviews we get, that will probably help. But how do we get more reviews? We have to get more sales. How do we get more sales? And that's really what it comes down to then, right? But if we are trying to, going back to what Chris just highlighted, and I'm going to highlight it again, if we're trying to get more sales, but there's not any more sales to be had because the demand isn't there, it's going to be a really, really rough road. Okay. Because we're trying to get something to work that really can't work to the full potential because it's just not there. All right. But to keep the top spot, if you do, like, let's say that you're happy selling, 5 a day, and you're like, that's great. Okay. I want to keep selling 5 a day. And you looked at demand and you're like, there is enough demand out there for me to sell 5 per day. How do I stay there? You continually increase your conversion, or at least keep your conversions higher than your competition. Okay. And then it's not going to matter. You're almost bulletproof at that point, because Etsy sees this is a great product that people love. It's got great reviews. They're a star seller. They're doing great, by, their customers, and we're going to keep them there because everyone else that comes in, they're like at a 1% or a 2%, and this one's at a 3%. And this listing is 24 months old. Okay. That's how you do it. Is it something you're going to do overnight? No. Okay. That's why moving into Q4, we want to make sure we're optimized on the front, right? On the surface, but we want to make sure we have as much of that conversion, those conversion pieces in place that we can. Can you go right now and get 25 reviews on your listing just overnight? No, you got to get 25 sales in order to have a chance to get those reviews. So it's going to be a slower process, but as we start to tick up, right? As we start to tick up the traffic, which we're going to in Q4, you'll start getting more of those sales, even with a lower conversion rate. And that's going to help you increase the conversion rate. So hopefully that all made sense, but that's the real secret to ranking and getting on page 1 of Etsy and staying there now and in 2025. So Chris, anything I left out there before we do our usual recap here?
Yeah, I think that once we get through those core 3 that you were just talking about, it's really all about letting the data be your guide, Scott. Did we do the basics, right? That's step number 1. And then, are we getting impressions? Are we getting traffic? Are we getting conversions? And how are we converting versus the competition, right? That's essentially what we're worried about once we are trying to secure that top spot. If we've done the basics, then it's just a game of how much am I selling versus my competition? And the answer probably does not lie, Scott, at that point, in rearranging the keywords in your title or slightly tweaking your description because you forgot about the word cup versus mug or something like that, right? It's going to come down to the bigger things in your listing that can impact your conversion rate. One big secret that I would say here, Scott, is if you are looking at how you are converting and you're looking at how your competitors are converting, take the highest converting competitors that are selling similar products and look at what they're doing in their descriptions and their images. Look at their pricing strategy, look at the other things that they're doing. But the biggest place where you will usually gain that advantage in conversion rate is going to be in the images and description. Because chances are, if you're getting traffic, right, that you don't have an SEO problem. You don't have a keyword problem. You now have a listing problem. We need to figure out how to answer the question that people can't ask us outside of sending us an Etsy message. so that we can make sure they have everything they need to make the purchase decision when they're ready. And if we can do that, we will be in the top spot on organic. And if we want, we can continue to run Etsy ads and get all the benefits that come out of that. But if we can focus on turning every single person that we can into a sale by looking at what happens when people come to the listing from different keywords, looking at what our competitors are doing on those keywords, and tracking the highest converting competitors to see what they are doing and apply some of those same strategies to our own shop, we'll be able to increase our conversion rate and increase the likelihood that we can secure that #1 spot.
Yeah. And so I did want to bring this back up because this is something we're going to be really, really drilling into is in our SEO accelerator workshop, which is coming up. If you guys are just tuning in, we opened enrollment today. We're going to be doing this. It's a 2-day workshop. It's going to be one workshop per week. We're going to do September 5th and September 12th. And the one thing that we're going to be doing, as you can see, we are really talking a lot about the conversion side. Okay, because that's really, really important. So that's one thing we're going to be drilling into very, very deeply. We're actually going to be also collecting data off of top converting listings and breaking down and showing exactly why these are converting higher. And so this will give us clues. So this way here, you could apply some of these things to your listing, even if you're not selling that type of product. Right. So an example would be if we notice that this listing is converting at 3.5% and it's had 600 sales, then we're going to want to look at those images and go, is there something in the images that are there that are maybe making people buy quicker than mine? And maybe they have a badge that says free shipping. And you're like, I offer free shipping, but I don't have a badge in my images. Maybe I should put it there, right? Things like that. So we're going to be doing a full deep dive. We're going to collect at least 25 of these and we're going to break these down. That's going to be like a little bonus that we're doing. Once again, if you're interested in attending this SEO accelerator workshop, first time we've taught it, first time that we're doing this group, we're calling it more or less like a beta or a pilot of this workshop. If you'd like to join us, you can. It's open right now, the enrollment. It is a paid workshop, but we're going to be spending 2 days together and we're going to be at least 2 hours each time. But if you're interested, you can go to brandcreators.com/SEO and you can enroll there. All the details will be there. But we are going to keep the doors open for enrollment up until September 4th. And then once we start the workshop, obviously we're going to be taking this first group through it. So if you'd like to be a part of that, head on over to brandcreators.com/SEO. If you're on our email list, you probably got notified this morning. And if you didn't, you might want to check your email because all the details are in there as well. So we're really excited about this because it is a lot about what we're talking about. We're going to go deeper, but we're also going to show more examples and we're going to review some of the students going through the workshop with us. So if you have a listing that you want us to review and take it through the conversion template, because that's what we're going to pretty much have, we'll also do that for our students. So if you're interested, brandcreators.com/SEO. All right, cool. So Chris, let's do that quick little recap. We always do our recaps now. We try to get it done in 8 to 10 minutes if we can. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris here in a second, but let me just tee it up for you, Chris, and then you can rock and roll. All right. So there are 3 tips that I want to share with you today that are going to help you rank on page 1 of Etsy. And we just wrapped up a full live stream where we went really deep into it, but I wanted to give you the Cliff Notes version, and I'm not going to do it. Actually, I'm going to have my good old buddy, Chris Schaefer, do it for us. So Chris, if you could do that, give us a quick recap. What are those 3 tips that people need to know in order to rank on page 1 of Etsy and stay there for Q4, but also for 2025?
So if we're trying, and I think, Scott, this is everybody's goal. If we're trying to rank on page 1, especially in that #1 spot and stay there, there's 3 big things that we need to understand and that we need to focus on. The first thing is we need to understand how Etsy SEO actually works, what it is and what it isn't. I think this is the biggest place where we see people trip up nonstop. It's the biggest place where we see myths pop up all the time. And it's the biggest thing that Etsy's CEO actually came out recently and said, people are doing this wrong. And I don't quite know why, because I don't know where this got started, right? Etsy's SEO algorithm is not is not based on keywords. Shoving more keywords into our title, into our description, spending all of our time, energy, and effort focusing on finding that golden keyword, the keyword that no one else is using. A different way of describing the same thing, that's not where our time is best focused from a search engine optimization perspective on Etsy. Now, I know all of you are in the comments right now saying, well, then what do I do? How do I do this? What is important if keywords aren't important? You're crazy. Obviously, keywords are important. Keywords are important to a point, but keywords are not going to make or break your listing, as long as you are accurately describing what it is that you are selling. So if you are selling a dancing avocado mug and you have dancing avocado mug or dancing avocado cup, Etsy's algorithm is smart enough to know that a mug and a cup are the same thing, and you would qualify for all of the same search results, whether you call it a mug or a cup, or you write cup 50 times or one time. It's in your title tags, description, or even the alt text of your photos. Even once you pass that first level of test, which is, could somebody who is running this search right now possibly be looking for this product, right? And the place where I get a little confused on this, Scott, and you guys let me know in the comments as well, is that's where people stop. And if we think about this for just a second, that would mean everybody who sold a similar product would just randomly show up because they all qualify at exactly the same rate. Obviously, that's not how Etsy search works. So how does it work? Well, it turns out it's all about conversions. Etsy's goal, just like any search engine's goal, is to answer the question of the person who is searching. If we think about this in the context of something like Google, we go to Google and we type in how many tablespoons in a cup, and they send us to something that measures in metric, that doesn't make a lot of sense and it doesn't answer our question. We'd go back to Google and we'd look for something that told us how many tablespoons were in a cup, right? Google's goal is to correctly answer that question as quickly as possible. So the number one search result on Google should get you that answer. In the case of Etsy, what is the question that the searcher is asking? Which product would I be most likely to purchase if I'm searching for dancing avocado mug or whatever it is that they are typing in? So Etsy's algorithm is driven not by keywords, because they know that a cup, a mug, a teacup, coffee cup, drinky thing, ceramic thing for desk with dancing avocado mug on it could all potentially mean the same thing. So they throw every listing that could qualify for that into a bucket, and then they start filtering those out based on how likely they are to convert. Now, there's a little bit more to it than that, and they layer a few other filters on before they really get to that point. But it all really comes down to which listing, my listing for the dancing avocado mug or Scott's listing for the dancing avocado mug, is this particular customer most likely to purchase? That's the one that has the highest likelihood of ranking first. The second most likely one would rank second, and so on and so forth. We can throw some ads in on top of that. But at the very basic level, Etsy's algorithm is driven by conversions. It's not driven by keywords. Keywords are the tires that get us there, but the entire rest of the car is the conversions. Everything else comes down to how likely a customer is, if they search for something, to buy the listing that Etsy is showing. So Scott, with that out of the way, let's dive into thing number 2. And if we're really trying to get to the top of Etsy search results and stay there, what do we need to focus on? Now that we have an understanding that it's not about keywords, it's about conversions, what do we need to think about? And there's 3 things here. You and I have started calling this the core 3 that everybody needs to think about. The very first thing is we can have the highest converting listing in the world, but if there's one person a month who's searching to buy that thing on Etsy, even if we convert it 100%, we're not ever going to get any more sales than that, right? Because that's the limit of what that product could have. So the biggest mistake, once people kind of understand that, is that they're launching a lot of products that don't have demand. And they think finding a slightly different keyword is going to solve that problem. But if there's only one person named Chris who's searching for dancing avocado mugs every month on Etsy, I can try every keyword combination in the world. I can make all the listing tweaks in the world, but there's still only one possible customer every single month. So we have to focus on products that are in demand. Thing number 2 in the core 3, Scott, is, did we do the basics, right? I didn't say don't ever think about keywords. We said think about them at a very basic level. Are we accurately describing the product? And that's a lot of what we mean when we talk about doing the basics. we want to set ourselves up for success, we don't have to worry about shoving every possible variation of the keywords in there, but we do have to fill out our title, tags, and description, right? We have to accurately describe the product within the Etsy ecosystem. We have to say personalized dancing avocado mug, if that's what you're selling, in the title. We're going to fill out our tags with some of the other keywords that we would potentially use. And in our description, we're going to remind people what the product is, why they might want to buy it, who it's for, and what it's made of, right? That's the extent of what we have to do here. This doesn't have to be an exercise of how many different ways can I describe the same thing. Think about doing your SEO basics that way. Not only will it make your life a little bit easier, but it is also better because it's written for a human in a way that the Etsy algorithm, that evil Terminator robot, Scott, that everybody thinks about all the time, will also understand, right? So if we write for humans first, we set ourselves up for higher conversion rates, and we can actually limit the amount of time that we're spending doing the basic things of filling out the title, tags, and descriptions. Obviously, we also want to focus on our images, making sure that those are all filled out. And once we've done those, then all we're really doing at that point, Scott, thing 3 and core 3 is focus on improving, right? Take a look at what's happening and see if we can improve our conversion rate. Tip number 3, if we're trying to get to the top of Etsy search results and stay there, is all about that last thing from the core 3, Scott. How do we get higher conversions? How do we consistently ensure that we are doing the best that we can when Etsy shows us? Well, the best thing to do is just let the data be our guide. Take a look at the reports that Etsy gives us access to, both on the Etsy ad side and on the organic side. And we just got some news from some of the people watching the live stream that we just did, Scott, that they are rolling out some of the new features inside of the seller dashboard to hopefully give sellers even more insight into what's working and what's not. But on the ads report, we get to see when we show up for a keyword, how likely it is that somebody comes to the listing, how likely it is that if they come to the listing, do they turn into a sale? They're giving us even more insight into that on the organic side. So the very first thing we need to do to ensure that we can secure that top spot is focus on that data. And when we're looking at that data, it really comes down to a few different quick things. Are we getting seen, right? So if we have those keywords, are we even getting impressions? Are we showing up in the search results? Thing number 2, are we getting traffic? So if somebody sees us in the search results, are they likely to click on our listing? If we're getting those clicks, we're getting people to come into the listing, then how likely are they to turn into a customer, right? And if we look at those 3 things, then we can have a really good understanding of how we stack up against our competition, especially if we're using something like Everbee, where we can take a look at the listing, see what their average traffic looks like, and see what their conversion looks like. We can compare ourselves against our higher selling and higher ranking competitors to say, okay, they're getting a lot more impressions. Maybe I missed something on the keyword side, or they're converting at 6%. I'm converting at 2. What are they doing in their title, tags, description, and in their images, which is the thing where people miss the most from an SEO perspective because it doesn't have a direct impact on ranking, but it has a massive impact on conversion. What are our higher converting competitors doing that we can then model and apply to our listing? And if we can focus on those things, right? What are the different changes that I can make to increase that conversion rate? Then we are going to start to see ourselves climbing the rank. And if we can consistently convert as well as our competitors or better, we'll see ourselves climbing in those SEO ranks and we can secure that number 1 spot.
Awesome. Yeah, Chris, I did just notice that too. We might have to call an audible and do a little breaking news here because yeah, I just saw that it came up in the dashboard. It's nothing really fancy yet. So I don't know if you want to pull up yours and see in the test account if you see it there. But you might not see much because you don't have any sales really running through that. But I can say what ours is. But
yeah, I had Paige send over a screenshot, so I'm going to pull that up really quickly. And if you want to share that, we can. Let me see if I can get that pulled up on my side. While I'm doing that, Scott, did we have anything interesting come in the comments? Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, we did have questions. I'll address this one here. So, but how to increase conversions when you're not having sales? Feels like a vicious cycle that doesn't let in new shops and new listings. Okay. So this is a great question, but I am going to give you how you can actually do this. All right. And you might say to yourself, well, Scott, I don't want to spend any money to get visibility. I just want to, list my products and let Etsy show them and help me out. But I'm here to tell you that's not how it's going to work. All right. So, and I talk about this a lot about business in general, is like we have to spend a little bit of money and a little bit of extra work in order to get those sales. So to get sales, there are a few different things that we can do as long as we've done what we were supposed to do in the beginning, which was our product research to make sure that there's enough demand for the product. If we have not yet noticed if there's any demand, then we have to go and investigate that. And that way there, we're not trying to make this thing work if it's not going to work because there's no sales there. So here's what you can do though. And this is what we have done. It's what we continue to do. And I'm talking about like an old product or even a new product. Once again, making sure though that we have demand. Okay. Like I said, none of this is going to work if we don't have demand. So we're going to push off the profit. Okay. We're not going to think about the profit right now. I know that's a hard thing for a lot of people. We're going to push off the profit and we're going to say, you know what? We've got to get sales. So maybe what we're going to do is we're going to discount our product by 40%. And that's going to, number one, allow us to show up in different areas of Etsy. Okay. Because Etsy has a lot of pages that promote sales. Right now, they have something at the top that says get up to 60% off for Labor Day. Okay. So they're always going to be pushing sales. They're always going to be putting different shops that are offering sales in these places. So that's number one. Even if you didn't spend any money, if you make that one adjustment, that can give you some exposure for free. Okay. But then taking this a step further, now what we would want to do is, okay, how do we get traffic fast? We use Etsy ads. So then we would turn on Etsy ads, maybe $5 a day, maybe $10 a day, and do that for 7 days. And we might spend for 7 days, let's say $35, maybe $50. But now we're instantly getting traffic. And now we can also see, is our product going to convert? Even if it's not converting as high as we want it to in the future, is it converting? If we got 100 visits to that listing, did one person buy? Did we get a 1% conversion rate? If not, then we got to look and say, okay, our images is not good enough, right? Well, like why isn't someone buying? Okay. So then we can start to investigate that. You can also look into your ads data at this point, and you can see what your listing is being indexed for. Now, if you need help with Etsy ads, we do have a free guide. If you want that guide, just put ads in the comments and I will make sure that I get you a copy of that. Okay. Because it goes through this whole strategy as far as using Etsy ads, but also looking at the data. All right. So if you want that, just put ads in the comments. But once we turn on the ads, now we're going to instantly have traffic. We don't have to wait for organic right now. Okay. And then because we set up a discount, it's also going to convert higher, even though we might not have a lot of reviews yet. Okay. So this is how we can get those sales coming in a lot faster than just waiting for the algorithm to pick our listing up and put it out there. Okay. The other thing that we can do if we have an email list is we can then send an email out to our list and say, hey, we're running a launch special for 40% off for the next 7 days. Here's the link. Okay. And then that's going to get sales coming in. Okay. And then if we have any social media, if you have Pinterest, if you have Facebook, if you have Instagram, like whatever you have, put it out there and bring some awareness to it. They have a share and save link, and in your dashboard, you'll find that. And when you use that link, you'll also get less, you'll pay less in your fees because they reward you for sending your own traffic. Now, I know for a lot of people, that's not going to get you a lot of traffic because you might not have a social following or you might not have an email list, but you definitely have access to the Etsy ads. So this is where we push off the profit for a minute. We get a lot more visibility to it. We also increase the conversions because we've reduced the price. We have a sale price, by the way. And when you see a sale price, a lot of times that's a conversion mechanism that will help increase sales. All right. And if we do that, now we're at least not waiting around and we're putting it in front of our ideal customers and we're seeing, is this thing going to sell? And if it's not, then we have a conversion problem and then we have to look and see why. And then we would fix that. So that's what I would do if I wanted to get the ball rolling faster, is I would spend a little bit of money to get exposure and send as much traffic there as I could. So Chris, hopefully that answered that question. I know I went a little deep there, but I wanted to make sure that we covered it all.
I like it. No, it was great. I was able to get those screenshots, and it also, when I asked for the screenshots, was not in our test account and now is. So literally breaking as this comes out. And there's another thing that rolled out today that I think is interesting for people to take a look at as well, Scott. So I'm going to roll right into this. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Let's tee it up though, Chris. I want a nice little because we're gonna probably cut this out afterwards. So do you want to give the breaking news alert there? Do you want to give me the?
Yeah, we can break it down. Are you able to see what I'm looking at?
Yeah. Now it's easier
Awesome.
to understand how customer service impacts your visibility. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, there's two things. If you want to queue it up, then we can jump in and knock through it.
All right. So just in, some breaking news for Etsy sellers. And this is something we've been waiting for. It has to do with visibility, getting your products to be more visible in the search platform. And Josh Silverman had talked about this about a month ago. We knew it was coming. We didn't know when it was coming, but just today we noticed it's in our dashboard and literally is being rolled out as we speak. So Chris, can you jump in here and can you show us and talk to us about what's going on here and what this means?
Yeah, so Etsy, who's notoriously slow to roll things out, Scott, has rolled two things out, not only on the same day, but within like 5 minutes of each other. They did make some changes, you might remember, to the terms of service and the customer guidelines and some of those kinds of things a while back. And those go into effect, I believe, September 15th. And what they did as a part of that is the first thing that they rolled out today is that what they're calling customer service stats. And their big announcement when you go into your account is now it's easier to understand how customer service impacts your search visibility. So they're going to starting to give us a score to show exactly how the things we're doing at a customer service level are impacting what we're doing from an SEO perspective, right? Not only do we have the right keywords in there, not only are we showing up, not only are we conversion focused, because we know that's the big thing as of right now that drives SEO, but what are the little things that we can do along the way to give ourselves a leg up? And if we click in here, they'll go over and show us all of the standards. But I think the other thing that's more important here to look at is the actual dashboard. Right. So what are we looking at? And since this is our test account, it just says, welcome, future star seller. If you're a star seller, these are already going to be checked off for you. And they're saying, hey, make sure you're earning that speedy reply badge. Make sure you have the smooth shipping badge. Are you getting rave reviews? And then are you a star seller? Once you see that, once you have that there, those will light up for you just like they did for the star seller stuff in the past. The new big chunky section here, and the thing that's really important for people, is taking a look at all of the daily progress stuff that we're now seeing. So we're seeing our response rate, our on-time shipping and tracking, our average reviews, and then our case rate. So how many people are asking for refunds, how many people are having problems versus how many sales that we are having. The other thing they're showing us here is just a deeper way to dive in to understand all of the different stats and how we stack up against what Etsy is expecting for us. They're bringing all of this in to one place. And if you look in your account and you're seeing this in there, you will likely see that they've filled in some of those sections up above for you. You can compare yourself to all of the different things that they are looking at. So they're not saying, this is a listing by listing thing. They are looking at the overall impact of your customer service. This is a great way to get started with that. Thing number 2 is what they're calling Etsy search visibility. And they're saying, in my case, because this is a test account that we use, the risk factor lowering my search visibility is that I don't have a shop icon. Why? Because this is what we use to look at what Etsy is doing. We don't actually run any products through here, so I've never uploaded a shop icon. Tisk tisk on me for doing that. This, I think, is kind of interesting, Scott, and I have a couple screenshots that some of our listeners, our watchers have shared with us as this has rolled out, so you can see some of the other things that you will see in this dashboard. But one thing that we get asked about all the time is, well, how important is your shop? And we know from the Etsy buyer survey that buyers, people who have purchased from us previously, and the people who purchase most frequently on Etsy love starting at the shop level. Now, in the back end of Etsy itself, they are saying your shop is important. What are your thoughts on something like this popping up under their search visibility as I go to grab those other screenshots to show you some of the other things that we're starting to see pop up?
Yeah, no, I really like this. And again, I think this is in its infancy. I think it's going to definitely get even built out more. You can see bonus tips to help boost your visibility. So they're even giving you like the ultimate guide to Etsy search keywords. Now, these things were always available, but it's still trying to give you best practices, which I think is really, really smart. But I do like it that they are going to give you your customer service stats. They're going to give you your listings. And in here, it says no listings show up in search right now. And that's because it's a test account, right? But if you scroll up again, Chris, go to the very, very top. And if you look, it says here, okay, one factor risks lowering your search visibility. This is where this is going to be really, really important, because then we know at least we've given the algorithm exactly what it wants on the surface. But things that we talked about here today was things like better customer service, getting a, star seller badge. Like those things don't necessarily convert higher because someone sees, oh, they're a star seller, but it does show up in the algorithm as far as that could be a factor that is taken into effect, that if someone else doesn't have it and you're competing with them, you may show up higher in search. So I really like that. I also like it that now in the dashboard, it's showing you Etsy search visibility. Like it's actually showing you a tab where you can go into and quickly see this. And then the customer service stats. If you don't think that it's important for customer service, they have a whole like section for that because it's that important. So if that is the case, then it's probably a good idea that you have good customer service. So I would be focusing on that. It's also going to give you more reviews. What happens when you get more reviews? You convert higher and everything just works a lot better. All right. So I really like this a lot.
Before I dive into some of those other screenshots, Scott, I did want to take a look at their article that they just published since we've been on and kind of walk through this with you. So are you able to see that article?
I am. Yes.
So they're actually breaking this down for us, and they're saying there's a couple things that rolled out, right? We're excited to announce the Etsy search visibility page in the shop manager. What is it? Right? Well, buyers want to know that they're purchasing from you, and they want to know all about the trust in the shop. So they're breaking this down into the two sections we were just talking about. The first one is customer service, which interestingly is actually a different tab. So they're giving us that customer service stats score, and then they're giving us the search visibility score that we were just talking about. So they're saying, all right, here's the customer service changes. What they are going to be looking at are your average review rating, your message response time, your case rate. So are you able to solve issues with your customers, right? If you are, and they specifically say here, because I know this is something that people are going to ask about or say, hey, if people just open cases against me, then it'll bring my SEO down. They're even saying here, not all cases are going to count against you or reflect negatively as long as you're meeting our customer service standards. So as long as you're actually replying to people and trying to help them get taken care of, they're not going to count it against you, at least theoretically, if somebody is just crazy, right? If you're not shipping stuff on time or you're not helping customers resolve their issues, then that case can potentially count against you. And they're saying anything that's covered by Etsy is also not considered as a factor in that score. The last thing they're looking at on the customer service side, at least for now, is the on-time shipping and tracking. So did we meet the expectations that we as sellers set for shipping time, right? That's all that they're asking us to do at this point is if we say we're going to ship it within 1 to 2 business days, are we consistently shipping within 1 to 2 business days? The other thing that they're looking at here, Scott, is the individual listings and the shop itself, as we saw from the test shop dashboard. What are they looking at here? Well, they're saying make sure that you're including high quality pictures, right? If you want more here, go look at this. Are you including your return policy? What is the shipping price? And I think this is something that is really interesting because in the past, Scott, one of the things that they have said in their algorithm documentation is that free shipping actually gets you a leg up. And so one thing that really sticks out to me here is this. They said, once our data tells us that a shipping price above $6, buyers are less likely to make that purchase. We want to make it easier for buyers to find shipping prices that meet their expectations. So starting on October 1st, if it's a US listing with a domestic shipping price lower than $6, we will prioritize it. So if your shipping is over $6, that means it will not necessarily be deprioritized, but it won't get that extra little leg up.
Yeah.
The question that we don't have the answer to at this point is well, okay, so is there going to be 2 levels of prioritization? Like free shipping gets the highest and then under $6 gets the second? Probably, because free shipping still will convert higher than charging for shipping in a lot of cases. But what they are saying is if it's less than $6, so $5 essentially or lower, then you'll still get at least some boost out of it. And that actually falls in line a little bit more with what we saw in the Etsy buyer survey than even what their guidelines were in the past, where people said, hey, if shipping is reasonable, then I'm okay with paying for it. And it's not really going to be something that impacts the conversion rate. We see Etsy showing that off just a little bit in this. And so essentially what they're saying is what's next? We're going to keep adding more things to this so that you have more visibility into the algorithm and how it works. But for now, that's what we're looking at. So they're giving each listing a score. They're looking at all of those things across the different listings and giving us some notifications. And I'll show you what some of those look like here in just a second. They also had a little bit of a Q&A, which is not very Etsy and something that I really like. So they're saying, hey, I have a ton of things to update. It's going to take me forever, right? And this is the same question that we got, Scott, when they rolled out the new image policy and the new creativity guidelines was like, oh my God, is this going to hit me right away? And they're essentially saying, look, it's there for you to be able to go and you can start uploading things and changing things. I wouldn't take a ton of time with this, right? If you have a million listings, then just focus on your higher selling things, focus on the ones that are going to give you the most return on investment, and then do the other ones as you have time, right? I'm not a star seller. Does that mean I won't be shown in search? And they're saying, no, that has nothing to do with whether or not you are shown in search, but making sure that you're meeting the customer service standards is important for how you show in search. So those two things are tied together in terms of getting that star seller badge. And that's really focused around making sure buyers know you have that record of customer service, but they're using some of those same metrics to determine whether or not they want to show you at all. So they're saying the customer service stuff is important, but it's not whether you have the badge or not. It's just whether you're executing on those things. And I think that's a much bigger concern, especially for new sellers who just don't have the volume to meet some of those standards at this point, right? Once you get up over a few sales a day, you're typically going to have the star seller badge as long as you're meeting those requirements. For newer sellers, it's not something you have to worry about as long as you're meeting their customer service standards. And Scott, you can see even on our test account, we were able to meet those customer service standards. Why? Because I've replied to 100% of the 0 messages that account has received, right? And so we got that checkbox. So new accounts, you guys don't have to worry about it. They're saying, hey, if I don't qualify for that Etsy the purchase protection program, is this going to affect me? They're essentially saying, no, look, we understand that people sell things over $250, right? Anything that falls inside of something Etsy would take care of, don't worry about it. If it's something that would only apply to smaller orders and you're a larger order, don't worry about it. We've thought through this just a little bit. Something interesting that I know you'll like, Scott. I don't have any reviews. Does this impact my ability to show up? No. New listings will still be shown in search, even if they don't have any reviews or ratings, as long as they don't have any other listing or shop quality issues. What do we need to do, Scott? Where do we really need to focus for new listings? Executing the basics. Did we fill out our title, tags, description, and images? If yes, we have a chance to show up just like everybody else. If a new listing is missing photos or a return policy, we might show you less, right? So if you don't fill out everything the way that you should be filling out everything, there's a chance that they're going to show you less. What we have talked about in the past with reviews, I think still applies. Reviews help improve conversions, which improves our overall visibility because it tells Etsy we are more likely to sell, but it's not going to stop them from testing new listings because they're aware that new listings don't have all of the same SEO metrics behind them that existing listings do. So that hasn't changed at all. They're saying, hey, I changed everything. I'm still not seeing anything higher. Yeah, it can take a little while is essentially what that giant paragraph says. I haven't made any changes. Why did my insights go away? Why did all the things you were telling me to change go away? They're saying, hey, if you got rid of the listing or put it on vacation mode, maybe those will go away. Probably not going to apply to most people because I have a feeling most people are just going to go in and deal with those listings as soon as they see those notifications pop up. And the last one here, this is going to be something interesting, Scott. Why am I being asked to consider presenting my shipping prices differently? And this ties back into the charging for shipping thing. And they essentially repeat the same paragraph where they're saying, hey, it's $6 or less is what's going to show up here. What they're going to do for listings that are over that is say, hey, maybe consider presenting your shipping differently, right? Because they know it's going to affect you. So they're going to give you that insight and say, hey, starting on October 1st, something you're going to want to consider. And it's something that is going to start to affect whether or not we show you. Having taken a look through this, Scott, is there anything you think that is massively missing from this? Or do you think this is a good move in the right direction in terms of visibility for sellers to understand why and why not they might be showing?
Yeah, I think it's everything that we've already kind of said, but it's good to hear it from, Etsy's mouth and kind of, know that the things that we feel are important. Now, they did say that, well, yes, you're a new listing, and if you don't have any reviews, it's not gonna negatively affect you as far as in search. We'll still give you the opportunity, but if you're missing some of these other pieces, it could impact you. And I actually read it where it said it could impact you immediately, right? So those are some things that I'm cluing in on. Like, we have to make sure that we fill out all the images. We have the return policy, like all of the things that are important. We need to make sure we check all those boxes. The one thing they did not say, and I don't think that they will say this because they still want to give new sellers hope, right? It's like, we're going to show you, but if there's listings that are showing or that are selling, we're going to show them more, right? Like, that is, they're not going to tell you that because they still want you to feel as though I have a new listing and I'm going to show, which I think that they are. And like I said, they are going to be always testing. So it's almost like products that aren't selling well, they're always going to probably put it in there to kind of keep testing. It's kind of like YouTube. If you post a new YouTube video, and there's already a YouTube video doing well, it's going to try it against the one that's doing well just to see if this one can do better. All right. So I think you still will have a chance. But I think if you have sales, you have an overall good rating and all those things, you're just going to be able to dominate the search results if you are a proven seller. And that's why over time, getting your account seasoned, getting a good rating, getting good reviews, all of that stuff is going to compound on itself over time. So I think they gave us a really good insight. They couldn't tell us everything, obviously, because then people are going to manipulate the algorithm. But I think from what I'm reading and what I'm hearing, I like it. I think it's a step in the right direction. So I think it's great news.
I love it. So this, Scott, came from one of our listeners, watchers, viewers, if you will. So this is what it looks like if you have a shop that has some orders coming through it. And we can see, if we're looking at just the daily progress, which was the customer service stats tab, all they're doing is they're just kind of showing us the rates on these different things, right? They're saying in this period, here's how we're doing. They're updating it every 24 hours. So in the last 24 hours, how many messages did you respond to in this period? Are you shipping things on time? Are you getting those average reviews? And did anybody open a case against you in this period? The other thing that they were able to share over with us, and I'm going to see if I can share that with us quickly as well, was their advice from Etsy. And I believe it's this one. Let me know if you can see this one here, where if you have some listings, they're not just talking about the shop level stuff. They're talking about some of the things you can do on the listings. Something that's really interesting here, Scott, we've always talked about images not having a huge impact necessarily on the ranking side outside of the impact they have on conversion rate. Something Etsy seems really focused on with this update is making sure that you at least have those image slots filled out. And let me know if you can read what they are saying right here.
Yep.
So
Five listings have one photo. Yeah.
Yep. And then, hey, could you upload some higher quality photos?
That's interesting.
Why might that be on both of those? Why would that be something they're focused on?
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's the conversion piece that we've always talked about, right? It's like, if people can't see the image well, it's going to be hard to determine if they want that image or they want that product. The other thing is it represents the quality of the product. So if you are selling a $2,000 piece of furniture, which we had one of our Etsy shop auditees on the other day who sells furniture for $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, but her images are really, really good. But if it was a really out of focus, like shot in a garage, it's not going to sell well, right? Because it feels like it's just lower quality. So yeah, the images are super important because that's your conversion piece that helps people see it better, clearer. They get to see different angles of it. So to me, having those images is extremely important.
Like it. So, Scott, looking at this generally, do you think this is a step in the right direction? Do you think this is enough clarity for sellers, just with what we're seeing? And I'm sure they're going to roll out some changes to this. The curiosity that I have comes down to the keyword level of things, and I know that they're trying to move away from the keyword level.
Yeah.
But I liked that beta search analytics report for so long that I'm curious if they roll some of that into this dashboard and let us know kind of at a listing level. But is this a move in the right direction? And do you think this is enough based on what we've seen so far to at least get people moving before we get into Q4?
Absolutely. And I think it's great that they rolled it out right now before Q4 because it's going to help you tighten things up. Now, again, we just went through in the live stream, which we'll link this up at the end, but basically, we just went through an entire thing on how to rank on page one, how to stay there. And a lot of the principles are what we just talked about that are just what we saw here in this update and in this rollout. So definitely make sure that you check that out. But Chris, I would say at this point, it comes down to having a good product, having good images, making sure that you're filling out your description, but also your title that is user-friendly, something that someone's actually searching for, making sure that you're doing good by the customer and you're getting good reviews and your shop is good and healthy. You're getting a star seller badge. If you're doing all of those things and you have products that are in demand, by the way, that's another piece here. You should be able to show up in search and you should be able to stay there and you should be able to dominate your niche with your products. Cool.
Love it.
I like it, Chris.
You know what, dude, we could not have planned that. That's the thing that I find amusing about that. And you guys, correct me in the comments if you feel differently, but everything that we just looked at seems to be focused on what, Scott? I think it starts with a C.
I think it starts with a C.
Conversions.
Yeah, that was it.
Conversions. Yeah, and like the only reason Etsy would care about images, and not just one image, because they're only going to show that first image if that's what's there, is the conversion side of this. Why? Because that's what the algorithm is focused on. They've told us this time and time and time again. And if we get what they want, give them what they need, then we're going to sell more, we're going to rank higher, and Etsy's going to continue to reward us with that organic traffic.
Yep. And so this would probably be a good little segue to give you guys a little plug here for our upcoming workshop. We have an SEO accelerator workshop. Now that this is rolled out, gives us even a little bit more direction and a little bit more of what we need to focus on. A lot of it is the conversion of that listing. If you would like to join us, we are going to be doing a 2-week workshop, 2 days, basically. It's going to be a week apart. September 5th is going to be our first workshop day. And then September 12th is going to be our second. And we're going to take the class all the way through SEO, but also the conversion side of things and everything in between. We're also going to be looking at students that are going through this, their listings. If they want us to, we're going to be breaking that down. We're also going to be analyzing some of the top converting listings and breaking it down chunk by chunk and really getting good insight on what a good high converting listing has. And so we're going to be doing that. Probably about 25 of those is what we're going to be shooting for. So we're going to be sharing all of those. If you would like to join us, it is a paid workshop, but we're going to be spending 2 days together. If you would like to join us, you can head on over to right here, brandcreators.com/SEO. Enrollment is open, but I will say this is what we're calling our beta group or our pilot for this workshop, this class, because we want to take our first class through it. We want to see what questions are being asked, and then we want to tweak it a little bit, and then we're going to roll it out to the public in the future. We're giving a discount on this right now. So if you're watching this before September 5th, 2024, you can go to brandcreators.com/SEO, and you should be able to sign up at that discount. If it's later, you're going to be able to get the 2.0 version, which will be with the updates and things and any bonuses that we include. It will be more than it is right now, but it'll still be very, very affordable. So if you're interested, head on over to brandcreators.com/SEO. And we start the class on September 5th. It'll run for about 2 to 2.5 hours each workshop. And it'll be a way for you to get direct access to Chris and I as well. And enrollment will be closing on September 4th. So if you want to grab a spot, make sure that you do so before then.
Scott, you mentioned that this is a beta for us. Are we going to pull an Etsy and make people wait 3 years to get the non-beta version of this class? Or like if they can't make it, like what should people be thinking about?
Our plans are to record it. And then after we record it, if there's anything else that we have to add that we might have not covered, we will shoot additional videos and we will add them in. We're also, like I said, we're creating a little bonus section here where we're going to be, and we might even add to this. It's going to start with like 25, and we're going to be analyzing 25 top converting listings, and we're going to break it down. We're going to actually create somewhat of a checklist template that we can kind of use as our guide. And then from there, you're going to be able to pick up little pieces that you can add to your listings to hopefully get them to convert higher as we're moving into Q4. So yes, this is, we'll call it 1.0. But yes, whatever we add into it, if you're joining this group, you're going to get all of that stuff extra as well. But if you're joining later and you're going to be paying a little bit more, you're going to be getting the 2.0 version. But yes, anyone that's in here on the first group will get access to whatever else we create for this workshop, which will probably be adding more of those high converting listings to that document that we're going to be creating. It'll be a swipe file where you can kind of go through it, but then also we're going to shoot a video analyzing it as well. So yeah.
Awesome. And as we saw, Scott, Etsy SEO can change, right? Like we just saw, they're giving us some more tools. Is that stuff going to be included in the workshop? Absolutely. And if they announce anything else between now and then we'll make sure that that's included as well. And obviously, you know, if there's some big changes to what they're doing, we'll make sure that we come back and include those.
Cool. All right. So Chris, let's talk about this next topic that we wanted to include. It is about SEO. And I think it's important because it does affect people when they are thinking about SEO. So I wanted to cover these. I know we had talked about it and there was like 3 Etsy SEO not even mistakes, myths. They are mistakes though, but they're really lies that we look at that are being told out there. And we want to be able to get rid of those. So let's go ahead and let's discuss these real quick. I'm going to go ahead and tee it up for you, Chris, and then we're going to kick it back over to you once again, and you and I could talk about it. So there are 3 Etsy lies out there about SEO that I want to debunk right now. I want to put them to rest because they really, really are lies. And I think it's important to know what they are, but also that some of these things are not necessary. And it's just a waste of time. So to help me with this, Chris Schaefer is going to do me the honors and it's going to help me. So Chris, where do you want to start? You want to start with the first lie? What is that? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to take these in reverse, Scott, because I think they all tie into each other.
Okay.
The first one I want to talk about is keyword stuffing, right? Stuffing delicious. Putting a lot of keywords in something, filling your title with as many keywords as possible, not delicious. Not delicious for the Etsy SEO algorithm, not delicious for your buyers, right? What we're looking at, and when we're talking about keyword stuffing, it's the common myth that you will see where somebody is writing personalized dancing avocado coffee mug teacup, ceramic coffee tea, hot water Kool-Aid cup, right? Any of those things where you're shoving 48 variations of essentially the same thing into your title description. This is the most common advice that we see. It's the most common way we see titles presented in the Etsy ecosystem, but it doesn't just apply to titles. We see this in descriptions and we see this in alt text and images. We see this anywhere where people can tie a bunch of words together. It's gobbledygook. The reason that people think that this is helpful is because it gives them as broad of coverage as possible. After all, if Etsy's algorithm knows that I qualify for a cup and a mug and a tumbler and a ceramic thingy that holds liquid, then they're going to show me from. What people don't really understand with that, Scott, is that this is not 1996. This is not the dogpile search engine or Ask Jeeves, right? Etsy's algorithm is substantially more complex than this. And they really do understand misspellings. They understand plurals. They understand synonyms. I know that's a big word, but all it means is they understand words that mean the same thing, right? So they understand that a cup is a mug is a Tumblr, right? They understand how all of these things tie together. And if you qualify for one of those, you're very likely to qualify for all of them. So rather than stuffing as many of those different ways of saying cup, tea, coffee, whatever into that title, focus on writing a human readable title. Why? Because not only will the algorithm still understand it, but humans, who are the people who actually buy the products, at least as of 2024, right? That may change, who knows? Our AI overlords might be coming. But as of right now, humans are the ones that are doing the purchasing. And if we focus on writing the titles for them and including some of the basic keywords along the way, that gets us 99% of the way there. And it helps us improve the conversions side of the algorithm, which is really what we're after. Am I missing anything, Scott? Is there any rants that you want to go on the keyword stuffing side of things? I know this is something you absolutely despise when you see it, so I'm sure you have at least a little something you want to.
Yeah, don't do it. I think that's I want to leave you with that. Just don't do it. It's not necessary. It doesn't look good, number one. And number two, Josh Silverman basically said words out of his own mouth, do not keyword stuff. We don't want it. We don't encourage it, and it does not help you. And I can tell you right now, it's probably going to be worked into the updated algorithm that it will be rolling out. And I know he talked about AI and things that could actually maybe hurt you, because if it sees that you're just repeating and it is identified as keyword stuffing, that could be a red flag and that could hurt the listing. So I would stay away from it. And I would just say, don't do it.
And Scott, you as the wise old e-commerce grandfather may remember Amazon, like 2018, 2019, rolled out an update and said, here's how we want you to write titles.
Yep.
Why? Because they had this exact same problem. The search results looked like garbage because everybody was saying dancing avocado ceramic drinky thingy, right? And then coffee cup, mug, tumbler on top of that. And it made no sense. So they came back and they said, we will punish you if you do this. And also, you can't even create a listing if you do that because you have to follow this structure. Yep. I don't see Etsy necessarily going that far because the computer learning and all of the AI has come a long way since then. But we know that Amazon cracked down on it. We know that Etsy frowns upon it. So why do it? We know their algorithm is smarter than that. It's not 1995 anymore. Let's stop pretending that it is. And Scott, that leads me into thing number 2, SEO myth, SEO lie number 2, which is that keywords are your golden ticket, right? This one for me is one of the most frustrating things because it seems rather obvious to me that this should not be the case, and it's not the case on Etsy. And yet most of the SEO advice that we see time and time again is focus on finding the right keyword. You're not getting enough impressions. It's because you didn't put the right keyword in the right magic order. You didn't do that. It's all about the keywords. I'm not saying keywords are not important at all. I'm saying keywords are probably the least important portion of the listing, as long as you're getting within the same galaxy of the thing that you are selling, right? If you are selling a mug and you call it a mug, great. If you call it a cup, Etsy still understands that because in the description, you're saying it's made of ceramic. What is a ceramic cup? It's a mug, right? And so they can make those level of connections. And so right behind that keyword stuffing, Scott, everybody says it's all about the keywords. That's why I have to do the keyword stuffing. And you and I know we've talked about this. Etsy's new SEO update that they just rolled out to show sellers what they can do to improve their listing optimization and their visibility focuses on this. In our eyes, in the eyes of everything that we've heard from Etsy, not about the keywords, it's about conversions.
Oh yeah. All about the conversions. And I mean, we did a full live stream on this, which felt like it was just a conversion workshop in a sense, because it's that important. And I think now that we've heard it right from Etsy, that they are looking for these other things, like, why are we going to just focus on keywords? Like keywords, yes, they are going to identify your listing for who you are trying to serve the product to, right? Who you're trying to get in front of because they put a search in. But to me, it's really, really simple. If you have done your research and you found that you're going to be selling a personalized nurse's sweatshirt, that's probably going to be your main keyword. And you don't need to look any further. Now, are you going to put in there maybe NICU because that's another one? Yeah, maybe, but you don't have to repeat and you don't have to go and try to find all of these hidden golden keywords. Okay. You just have to find the main ones that are driving a bulk of the traffic, use those, and then start to get conversions and start to really work on the other areas of your listing to convert higher. So that way there you show up in search. It's literally that simple. This whole nonsense of like, just go out there and find all of these, keywords that no one else is using is a waste of time, in my opinion.
Love it. It's all about conversions. And Scott, you're right. We did just have a conversion convention or a conversion conversation, right? That was a whole live stream, and I'm sure we'll link that up down below for everybody if you guys missed out on that. Lie number 3, Scott, myth number 3 that will kill your chance to get traffic. And this comes out of the importance of keywords and keyword sprinkling, is what I like to refer to, or keyword stuffing rather, is what I like to refer to as impression sprinkling. And you've heard this theory pop up time and time again. They say, hey, Etsy, much like a, one of those sprinklers or a oscillating fan on a hot day, likes to just spread those impressions all around. So if you're not getting the sales, there's just nothing you can do about it, right? You have a lot of demand still in your market. Etsy's going to put a hard impression cap on you. So once you get to 200 views a day, they're just going to stop showing your listing. One, that makes no sense because Etsy's job is to match somebody searching for your thing with the product they are most likely to buy. And if you are that product, then you will be shown, right? That may happen a little bit more on the ad side, but that's not the way that the organic side of this works. They don't just artificially cut off the impressions and wait for them to come back to you. What they are looking to do is match each searcher with the product they are most likely to buy. If you are seeing something weird happening with your impressions, it's not because the Etsy algorithm just blew the other direction or they stopped showing you for impressions that day. It's likely because you're not converting as well as you were before, or something else has changed in the ecosystem. So rather than just saying, there's nothing I can do about it, what can people do, Scott? Again, we're just going to go back to that conversions conversation, right? Focus on conversions. But if somebody's looking at their listing and saying, hey, my impressions started to drop, what would you suggest that they look at rather than blaming the whims of the Etsy sprinkler system?
Well, if you're looking at the listing itself and people are actually coming to it, that's the other thing, right? Like people are like, well, my conversion's low, but you only had, 50 people come in. But let's say that we do have a steady flow of traffic and something dropped. The very first thing I would be looking at is, okay, what was it before? Okay. And if it went from a 2 to a 1, okay, well, then we have to look at it and go, did I get any negative reviews recently? Maybe there's something there. Did I lose my star seller badge? So I'm looking at things that could be obvious that could make someone doubt wanting to buy from me. Okay. Something along those lines. The other thing I might be looking at is go, okay, did someone else come on the scene that has better photos than me? Right. Maybe. Right. So I'm going to be looking at my photos to make sure that I have those all dialed in. But those would be the areas that I would be looking at as far as if my conversion dropped. If it went from a 2 to a 1, I have to look at and see like, what could it be? Or what is the thing that changed? And a lot of times it could be a negative review that's sitting on top. And now what we got to do is we got to work harder to try to get that either taken off, or we have to go ahead and try to bury it. And if it's going to be hard to take it off, but if you reach out to that customer and you say, hey, I noticed you left me a 3-star, you're not happy with the size, I'd be more than happy to send you one. Like, no problem. If you just would have reached out, I would have did that for you, and I'll do it for you right now. Try to make them happy. That there could change everything because you went that extra mile. So that's what I would say. And that would be the first things that I would be looking at if I had a drop in conversion.
Yeah, and that will tie in with that drop in impressions, right? It's not whimsical. It's not magical. There's always a reason for it. And it typically comes down to a conversion-based reason. So what have we learned here today, Scott? We should not be doing keyword stuffing, right? We're not starting at the top and just shoving in as many different ways in our title tags and descriptions of saying dancing avocado mug, cup, tumbler, whatever. We're not doing that at this point. We're focusing on creating human readable titles and descriptions. If we have some longer tail keywords that we want to include, that's a great way to do it in your tags and in the alt text. Your description and your title should be something that a human can read, understand, and make an educated decision about what your product is and if it's the right product for them or not. If that's where you're focused, that's going to help you convert. That's going to help you rank higher. Myth number 2. What are the importance of keywords? What is the importance of keywords? kind of important as long as you're in the ballpark, right? It's not going to be the thing that makes or breaks your listing. As long as you're accurately describing the product, you pass that first step of the Etsy test. And then it comes down to when they send you traffic. How well do you convert versus your competitors? Myth number 3, it's not because you didn't find the right keywords. It's not because you need to stuff more keywords in. It's not because Etsy has some random system where they just cut you off at 200 impressions a day. If you see a change in your impressions, it's not something magical. It's something that happened in the real world. Take a look at what happened last year at the same time. Is it just fewer people are searching for those things right now? Or did a new competitor come on the scene? Or is somebody out converting you? Those are the places to look. Don't blame Etsy. Blame the listing and figure out what you can do to start to.
Perfect. All right, Chris. I know we had other things to talk about. Let's answer some questions. Maybe we'll push them off until maybe next week because they aren't as pressing. I think we had a little audible there with the breaking news on the Etsy and the visibility and all of that. And this has been really SEO dense, which is good. But I did want to answer some questions that came in, and then we can go ahead and we can wrap her up. Let's see here. I've got some that are queued up. Let's see here. This one here. Could you go more in detail as to why it may be harmful to just follow trends for long-term shop stability? Go ahead, Chris.
So
you seem like you're chomping at the bit for this one.
So she asked pretty early on. She's been hanging out with us for like an hour now, Scott. If focusing on trends is useful or harmful for the long term. And I think the pop-out answer is it depends. It depends on what you mean by a trend, right? Are we talking about a fashion trend that we're incorporating, or are we talking about this specific kind of design is selling really well right now? Everybody wants a dancing avocado mug, so I'm going to sell a dancing avocado mug. That's the dangerous side of this. This is a side that will lead to burnout and will lead to fewer sales and less profit than you would be earning otherwise. We are not a fan of trend chasing. What you should be doing is focusing on a single niche. Why? Even though it seems like that is more constrictive from a creativity standpoint, it actually allows you to ask better questions and spend less time running around like a headless chicken. Why do I say that, Scott? There's a couple things. One, we know the niche-based shops, they're going to get repeat customers. Etsy buyer survey tells us that over and over and over again. Common sense tells us that if they know what they're going to get every time they come in, when they want that thing, they're going to come back. Doesn't mean we can't also incorporate trends. And this is, I think, where people get messed up. Instead of chasing the same exact product that everybody else is chasing, when we see a trend pop up, be it a fashion trend or a funny saying, all we have to do, instead of creating the same exact product that everybody else is doing, is say, does this apply to my niche? Is there a way that I can turn this joke into something that works for my niche? Is there a way that I can use this fashion trend? Comfort colors was the big thing last year, right? Is there a way that I can create some comfort color t-shirts that my niche will like? If we can focus on that, we don't have to worry about trying to be the first person on top of every trend, which is really who makes all of the money. Scott, you may remember back in the Amazon days, fidget spinners started to become a thing. And we had somebody who came to us the very first time you and I ever met in person, who was the #1 ranked fidget spinner on Amazon. They ran out of inventory for like 2 days and could never sell the rest of their inventory after them. Why? Because everybody jumped on that trend. He was one of the first people that was there. He made a killing. And then as soon as he ran into any sort of a little hiccup, all of that money went away. That's the issue with trend chasing at its core. Instead of going after the same thing that everybody else is going after, it doesn't mean don't look at trends. Ask the better question. How can I apply this to my niche? How can I apply this to my customers? Sometimes the answer is going to be yes. Sometimes the answer is going to be no. And that's okay too.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Let's see here. We got this one from Woodcrafter in your pocket. How do you pick in-demand products and stay in your one niche? That's going to depend on the niche, right? So if you're finding it's hard to find products that are in demand in your niche, then we have to ask ourselves, are we in the wrong niche? Or can we find shoulder niches, sub niches that are alongside it, right? So that's where I'm always going to be looking. So a lot of times people want to go into a really, really narrow niche and think, okay, I'm just going to go there because there's not a lot of people there, but there's also not a lot of people buying in there, right? So then if there are people in there selling, then now you're sharing this small little pond with all of these other sellers. So for me, it's about how can you tap into, so, I mean, here's woodcrafter in your pocket. I'm assuming something with wood is what you're selling. So if that's the case, you might want to start making some wood stuff for, maybe groomsmen, right? Or maybe you're going to start making wood products, for people that are fishermen and they're, catching fish and they're mounting them. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't, I mean, I think it is, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you want to figure out how to tap into with the product, the material that you are selling. A lot of people, they're like, I sell wood products. Okay, cool. But who do you sell them, to, right? Like, what are you making? Like, are you making cutting boards? Okay. Cutting boards are it's like a big, space with a lot of different sellers, but maybe we now say we're going to create cutting boards that are personalized for, I don't know, people that are maybe bridesmaids gifts. I don't know if that would be a good one or not, but maybe for wine and cheese, like, or something like that. Like, maybe, but you see where I'm going? I'm trying to take a product that fits into a bigger, broader niche. I'm in the dog niche, which is very saturated. It is, but what can you create that's in the dog niche that you can provide? Now, if you're making your own products, then you have to think to yourself, what can I create? Right? Is it customized bowl, or the holders for the stainless bowls, and you create those and you put the name on there? Like, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. So that's what we have to do. We have to start thinking a little bit outside of just the direct niche. So that's what I would say there.
That leads me into a question. I know we had it. I don't see it in our little queue of questions, but that queue's been weird today. Anyway, which is, is the reason that my niche is competitive, is that the reason I'm not getting enough views or enough sales? The answer is yes and no, right? If you're in a competitive niche, that's actually a good thing, right? And we've talked about this in the past, Scott, with the wedding niche, right? I don't believe that there's a niche that is too competitive to make work. If we come in with that mindset, then we're going to fail. The question we should be asking ourselves, and it's the question you just alluded to, is how do I find my foot in the door? I don't have to sell the same exact thing that everybody else is selling. I don't have to sell the same 4 dog products that everybody else is selling. What can I do to stand out? And is there enough sales for me to start making a profit? That way, once I make a name for myself, then I can start doing everything else. And we've showed a couple examples in the past. I think one of them, they started off with just wedding pajamas, and now they have a wide variety of wedding and bridesmaid stuff, which probably would have been too competitive for them to rank well with up front. But because they came in, they started building that customer base, that customer loyalty, and the recognition inside of the Etsy algorithm that they are a wedding related shop. When they go to launch those things down the road that are the more competitive products in that niche, they're able to start to make a dent.
This one here, I have 2 to 5 sales a day, but my traffic sucks. Maybe 20 to 40 views daily should be my SEO, right? Not necessarily. If you're having 20 to 40 views a day and you're getting 2 to 5 sales, your conversion rate is crazy high. Like, wow. Right? Like, most people would be happy getting 100 views and getting 2 sales, right? At a 2% conversion, you're converting way above that. So the question would be, is there enough demand to get more views? That would be my first question, right? And so then you're going to ask the next question, which is going to be like, well, how do I know? You're going to see by looking at other people that are selling similar products, is there other people selling more? And if they are, then there's probably more views there. So we have to reverse engineer it before we say our SEO is the problem, right? You can SEO this thing to death, but if there's only 20 to 40 views to be had and you're getting them all, it doesn't matter what you do, right? And I'm not saying that's the case here, but we have to have something that we can validate against. And if you're like, no, there's someone selling 25, or there's 5 shops that are each selling 5, that's 25 sales a day. That means there's more than 20 or 40 views out there to be had. So now the question would be like, how do I get in front of more of those people? So that's what I would say there on that. So hopefully that helped.
Agatha said, I'm getting 1 to 5. Is that SEO? And I think this is the symptom that we were talking about, Scott. Not everything is SEO, and we're using SEO wrong. The way that SEO is used is it keyword related?
Right.
Maybe, right? What we have to do anytime we have a question like this is type in the main keyword. So dancing avocado cup, right? Or dancing avocado mug, and see what the average volume looks like for people. We're not looking at the search volume. We're looking at the sales volume. That will tell us more than the estimated search volume will for any of these things. You're only getting 1 to 5 views a day and you're doing the right things from an SEO basics perspective. There's probably just not a lot of demand for those products. Let us know. Agatha, feel free to shoot a comment in the chat and I can take a quick look while we're on. But I would be willing to bet that's the problem that we're dealing with there. Typically, if you're not getting many views or impressions, it's because there's not a lot of people looking for that product, or you just aren't getting the conversions on the back end because you're a new listing and the people who are getting all of those conversions are selling 40 a day. Yeah. So those are two different
Chris, let's
issues.
answer 2 more questions and then let's wrap it up. We're heading to the 2-hour mark here. So let's go ahead and answer 2 more. I had a few starred here. I think you had some. Let's see here. I had one here. Oh, okay. This one here, maybe. So update tags to hopefully get more visibility. If that doesn't help, and I'm still on page 3 to 5, then would that be an indication that there's too much competition? Okay. So updating the tags, yes, it can get you more visibility if those tags, those keywords, basically that's what they are, if those are going to be helping you get more visibility. So then the question would be like, okay, where did you get the idea to include these tags? Now, some people don't realize, but if you advertise through Etsy with the Etsy ads, they're going to recommend tags. So even if you only ran Etsy ads for like 5 or 7 days at a small budget, you're probably going to get some data. That's why we talk a lot about Etsy ads and getting the data. They're going to recommend tags. Then you can go, oh, that makes sense. And then you can click it and it'll add it. So that's something. Yes, it could add more visibility. Is that going to help you rank higher? No. So here's what I would want to see you do. This is what I would do. Okay. Yours is on page 3 to 5 for a certain keyword. I would want to know, excuse me, on page 1, the person that has your spots, how many are they selling a day? That's what I would want to look at. Okay. And I'd want to go there and go, okay, they're showing up, not paid ads, by the way, just organic. And I'd want to know, okay, the top 3 to 5, how many are they selling a day? How many are you selling a day? Okay. And so then I would then ask the question, how do I sell to get in that spot? Well, some of the things I shared earlier, which is basically run a sale if you're not running one, because that's going to give you more visibility in the sales sections of Etsy. And then I would turn on Etsy ads and try to generate sales, even if I'm not making any money. Okay. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but that's what you got to do. It's like any business. If you're starting a business, you got to spend money for advertising to let people know you're there. Sales is going to be the answer. Sales and conversions are going to be the answer to get to page 1. So is there too much competition? Not really, if you can force your way in by getting more sales, but that might take doing, the Etsy ads and not making as much money on your first 50 sales, but it's going to help you get to page 1. So hopefully that helped.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example of why ranking where you want to rank can take time on the organic side. And it's another reason why we're such big fans of Etsy ads, right? If I launch a new listing today and I convert it 100%, that doesn't mean Etsy is going to rank me first because Scott's been converting at 50% for the last 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. So they're going to weigh that out and say, okay, Chris had 2 people see his listing. They both bought. Awesome. Right. Let's give him a chance, but we're not going to put him 1. That would just be crazy because we don't know what's going to happen. Right. And so as you start to build up that war chest of data, the more sales, the more reviews, the more people coming to the listing from relevant keywords, the faster you will start to move that up. If you are doing all of these things correctly and you're still not on page 1, it's a question of time and the conversion rate. Can we speed that up? Yeah. Etsy ads, sending emails to our list, all of those kinds of things to really get that flywheel moving. It's a great place to start.
Yeah. This one here, is there a more accurate way to decide on what keywords to use for products other than looking at Everbee scores or just guessing at the volume versus competition numbers? I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. We're not basing our decision on keyword numbers that a tool is giving us. Those are just like nice to haves. What you're going to do is you're going to find the products that are selling. That's your validation. And you're going to look at their keywords and you're going to model those. Because if someone is selling a personalized bass fishing sweatshirt, you should probably be using personalized bass fishing sweatshirt as your main keyword. And if they're using, dad gift, you probably want to use dad gift, right? So you're using what's working, not necessarily what the competition score is saying and what all that. That's all. It's nice to have, but it's not a deciding factor. The main thing we want to do is look at other listings that are doing well, that are of a similar product of ours, and we want to model that. It's been proven, and that's how we can tell, what are the right keywords, not guessing by looking at, a metric that Everbee gives us. I love Everbee for product research. The keyword stuff, I use it as like, it's nice to know, right? But those are not being pulled in from, from Etsy giving us that data. They don't give that data. Okay. So to me, you're using the tool for keyword stuff. I see this a lot of times when people are trying to find a product. They're like, oh, I'm going to go for that one because look at all the search volume. It gets like 10,000 searches a month. And wow, look there's not much competition. I'm going to do that and make a killing. And then you do it and you're not making any sales because no one's buying it, but someone might be searching for it or searching for it in a different way. So sales is always going to trump keyword like data. Okay. So that's what I would say to do.
Sweden says, modeling sounds much better than copying. I like it. It's also different, right? Modeling would be building something similar. Copying would be Xeroxing it, right? Like throwing it on the copy machine and just stealing it directly. What we're looking at when we're looking at the competitors, whether it be their title images, is what is the common thing we're seeing that we're not doing? And then is there a way that we can adapt that to our...
But to even like to say like copying, I'm going to copy the title. Not like I'm not going to copy their entire title of everything that they put in it, but that main keyword that they're going after, I'm using that. You better believe it. So if you want to call that copying, no, I'm just using the same keyword. Yeah, I'm going to take that one thing and I'm going to use it because it's working and there's nothing copyrighted and it's not theirs, right? It's something that someone is searching for. So I am going to use that.
How many ways can you say dancing avocado mug? Pretty much dancing avocado mug,
right?
Right.
So in that case, because Chris has it in his listing. I can't use dancing avocado mug. Right.
Right. Like there is going to be a time where you take that and use it. It's at the keyword level. We're not saying copy and paste the entire thing.
Right.
But if that's what they're calling the product and they're selling 100 times more than you are, maybe there's something to it.
Might want to use
right.
That.
And we should be looking at what's working and what's not. Sweden said, in my mind, I used to say copying. I'm just going to change it to modeling now. I like that. That's the right way to think about it, right? When we're thinking about images, we're not copying their image. We're not taking their image, but we're going to use something similar that applies to our product when we see something that is working. Real quick, Scott, I have a digital shop. I'm following all the new guidelines. I'm seeing a lot of shops that aren't. Okay, first, keep following the guidelines, right? Just because other people aren't playing by the rules doesn't mean that you should either. Make your mother proud. He said, what do you think is going to happen to these shops? Some point they are going to get caught and they're going to end up getting shut down, right? So just keep doing the right thing, keep your head above water, follow the rules as closely as you can, and go from there.
Yep. Awesome. All right, guys, that is pretty much going to wrap it up. If you guys are watching this on the replay, you guys can always drop a question down below. I also wanted to remind you, if you are watching this before September 5th, 2024, we are running a workshop. It's what we're calling our SEO Accelerator Workshop. First time we've ever did this. We're going to run a beta class through it. If you'd like to be part of that, where we're going to be talking all about SEO, but also about conversions and really how to get our listings to convert higher, what we have been able to do. We generated over $70,000 organically through organic traffic SEO last year. So we have been doing it. We have been using it, and we're going to go through some strategies that we've used, but also what Etsy wants us to do. We're going to also look at other high converting listings, and we're going to compare, but we're also going to use some of those elements for ours. So if we are selling in the nursing niche, and we see someone's in the dog niche and they're putting a badge in their image that says, get it in 3 days, we're going to probably include that because it's converting higher than ours. So we're going to look and see and look at the clues, and we're going to be able to use those to our advantage. So we're going to be doing a lot of that, a lot of conversion stuff. All right. Also, we'll be talking about really how to get fully optimized. We will talk about keyword research and some of the things that we're doing there. But if you would like to be in that class, it's our beta class for the SEO Accelerator Workshop. We're going to be recording it because we're going to be releasing it later as a 2.0 once we take this first class through it. But the first class is going to get a discount. So if you're watching this before the 5th and you would like to join us, head on over to brandcreators.com/SEO and you can join us. And we'd love to have you. We're going to be meeting for 2 sessions, 2 weeks or 1 week apart. So it's basically September 5th and September 12th. And if you can't make it, it's okay. We're going to record everything and we're going to be, we're giving everything out and the handouts. We'll have some handouts. And what we're going to have, like, we're going to do at least 25 high converting listings that are doing well. And we're going to use those as some of those clues. Like I had said, we're going to analyze those together. All right. So would love to see you there. And that's pretty much going to wrap up this little live stream that we did today, all about SEO and about getting found and the visibility and all of that within Etsy. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you have not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you do. And if you got any value today, smash the like button. We'd appreciate that. All right, guys, that's it. That's going to wrap it up. As always, take care, take action. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, guys.